This was the worst episode of House Hunters International I've ever seen. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
And this is our post-Shriek Out reaction for Theyre Watching, which I had never heard of, but this is found footage week. We're almost done with it. And I had kind of already gone through my entire mental Rolodex of all the terrible found footage films I always wanted to watch to see how bad they were. But when you're looking for really bad horror films, you go to Netflix. So I just went to Netflix, typed in found footage, and this was the first one to pop up on there. And I read the description, and it said it had to do with witches. And ever since I saw The Witch last year, or was it 2 years ago? Whenever we saw that one, whenever that came out, I absolutely love that film.
Yes.
That is actually one of my favorite horror films. It jumped up way up there. And ever since then, I've actually kind of become more fascinated with, like, old school witches. Like, not the I ride a broomstick with the big hat and I cackle thing, but like this is like, what was that thing that people actually used to worry about? Like, people going out to the woods and courting with Satan, like that stuff. Yeah, I actually kind of want to know more about that thing. So I said, you know what, let's go ahead and watch this. And, okay, you know how found footage movies always get a little bit crazy at the very end because, spoiler alert, the footage has to be found, meaning there has to be like
something crazy happens.
Something crazy happens, you run, you drop the camera, the protagonist finally gets killed by the monster they've been looking for this entire time, the camera falls, something like that. This movie is awful. It is just like, I'll let you know, like, I think this is one of the worst found footage films I've ever seen for many reasons that we will go into in just a second. But at the end of this movie, when they decide to go nuts, they go nuts at the end of this thing. This turns into Dragon Ball Z at the end of this. It really does, with worse effects. But man, as much as I did not like this film, if I knew what comes at the end of this film was coming, I might sit around and watch it all over again.
Yeah, maybe. It's like, the thing is, it takes a long time to get to the end.
I might watch it with fast forward on. Watch like 10 minutes before the ending of it. I'll get the idea. I'll get everything going on. But let's go ahead and talk about what this movie is about. This movie, it starts off as being a parody of one of those. This movie starts off by showing our protagonist being murdered later on in the film.
And then a smash cuts to like an intro to a parody of House Hunters International.
Let's not grace over the fact that this movie spoils what happens to our protagonist at the beginning of the goddamn movie.
And then suddenly, mood switch, like...
Yeah, but it's like, well, why the fuck do I care about any of this? Why do I care about our protagonist anymore if I know that's going to happen to them? Because the way that our protagonist dies in the opening of this, they die with a character who you think is supposed to be one of the good guys that's helping them, smashing her face in with an axe, and she turns around and the axe is in her head, like, and then she falls over dead. And you look at that and it's like, well, okay, maybe that's something completely unrelated. Maybe that was like somebody who, was here in this town before our protagonist gets here, so we already know the evil, horrible shit that goes down in this town, something like that. When our protagonist pops up, and I realized that was her, I was like, why do I care about any of this? Like, unless the spoiler in here is that, oh, guess what? She actually has resurrection powers and comes back from the dead. Spoiler alert, that doesn't happen. I don't care about what happens to any of these people. And even if that was the twist, that, oh my gosh, she has resurrection powers and she wasn't actually dead the whole time, you still get rid of the big shocking twist moment of, oh my god, I thought she was dead. Like, I wouldn't even feel that when it gets to that moment there.
Well, there was, sort of another twist, I guess.
There is another twist. I will give them that. But this is not one of those, twists that's okay to just get rid of. This is not one of those twists that's like, don't worry, if they see this coming, then the rest of the movie's still gonna be fine. It's like, no, it really wasn't. This is awful filmmaking. This is a terrible way to tell your story. To open up by just telling everybody, hey, the person you're about to spend the next hour with, they die in this exact way, and the guy who you thought was coming to save them. Even in that same scene, our dog is scratching the green screen behind us, everyone.
Come here. There we go.
Goof. Yeah, cool. Yeah, the guy who you think was coming to save her in that exact scene, because that scene starts with, here, come here, and she goes running to him for help, and then Chop's like, okay, well this means nothing to me watching this at the beginning of this movie. It's awful. But anyway, after that is over with, and then smash cuts to one of these house hunter shows, which I watched a few of them with you because you're a fan of them.
Yeah.
So speaking as somebody who only has very little knowledge of them, I think they kind of nailed it.
Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah, you can talk more about that. Because you actually know these shows, like the House Hunter International, you said it was?
Yes, that's what it was parodying. Like, the show and the movie is called, like, Home Hunters Global, so it's...
Oh, wow. Wow. See, I didn't even know that.
But, like, here's the thing. It's, like, it's not even, like, a parody of that. It's, like, a parody of, like, when they return to the house that the people bought to see how they've renovated it.
Yeah,
so, like...
God, she is one to play. Yeah, because I watched a few episodes with you, and basically the premise of those shows is they follow them as they find the house, then they leave for 6 months, come back after 6 months, and... Sorry, I have indigestion. And they come back after 6 months, and it's like, look at what they did with this house. Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is them going back to find what this person who was finding this house in is like Moldova? It's
something
like that.
Some like old European...
I don't think it's an actual location.
I know, but it's like, it's definitely like supposed to be like in the...
It's like generic comic book name for a Eastern European nation. Yeah. So they're going there. It's one of those ones where it's like, well, everybody looks Russian-ish. Maybe Russian-German, like, combination of the two. I can't quite tell. But yeah, so they're going back there where this lady from America and her soccer player star husband, they found this house, and it is a filthy shack.
Mm-hmm. In the middle of the woods, by the way.
2 miles in the woods. I grew up a mile from the highway, and not even highway. But yeah, I grew up a mile into the woods. This is 2 miles in the woods. It's like, all right, fuck, you got me beat. All right, yep, that's creepy even to me. But yeah, there's like no electricity, everything is breaking down. It's like, oh, it is fixer-upper. But this place is so bad that the real estate agent is the only real estate agent in the entire town.
Yeah, and
that's like a joke that they keep going throughout this. Is that it's like only real estate agent is best real estate agent.
And like that just like kind of like shows you like how small this town is.
There's a moment where someone gets injured and they have to take him to the only doctor in town who is a butcher. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, they literally have this guy get like an operation in the guy's freezer room of his like meat locker. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, that's the kind of place that this is.
Yeah.
And the movie is mostly focusing on the lady who we all know is going to die. It's focusing on this girl who she's like fresh out of film school, which was a gag that got old quick. Like every line that they had about this character was, oh yeah, she went to film school. 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 I spent all this time in film school. Spent all this time in film school, and I'm just filming frogs out here. Yeah, it really was. This film is not that good with its dialogue.
No.
I'll go ahead and say that.
No.
As well as many other things. Mm-hmm. But they get into this town, and the characters in here are awful. Just absolute. Every single person is just a one-note stereotype.
Yeah, it's like the camera crew is like a bunch of idiots, and then like the woman who is in charge of them.
God damn.
She is a bitch.
She is the biggest caricature of like, I am successful business lady, and I am mean to everyone because that's how successful business ladies have to be.
She's
like the producer,
yeah, something like that.
She's like the producer of the show. But yeah, so she's there. There's the cameraman who's the jokey guy, and he is just making every line out of his mouth. It's just an awful joke. Just awful, 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 awful. But then there's the dreamy guy. And the dreamy guy could not be more the dreamy guy. Actually, he's the cameraman. The jokey guy was the sound guy. They don't have a lighting guy, which is interesting for a reason I'll get to in a second. But yeah, the camera guy is the dreamy guy, and he looks like he just walked off of like some hospital-themed soap opera. Just like Dr. McChiselface just like the most handsome dude imaginable. And not only is he the one guy who is helping our protagonist, but also he was a journalist in Afghanistan, and he saw terrible things, and he's kind of tormented by that. But in that sexy way that when he confesses his tormented past to you, you instantly want to fuck him. Like, that's the kind of guy that he is. And the real estate agent is just every, like, Russian stereotype joke you can imagine. Again, I'm not even sure if this is supposed to be Russia or not. So yeah, everybody in here is just one note. And you do get to see a few different sides of some of them. Like, okay, not a few different sides, but like from here to here. Like, that's the distance that's...
Yeah, like, you see them from this angle, and then you, like, turn it 1 degree, and that's it.
That's as good as you're gonna get. But especially, like, the producer lady, she, like, I think she loses dimensions as this movie goes along, which I didn't think was possible. I didn't think you could divide by 0. You can divide by 0. I know how math works, everyone. But yeah, so this movie, the characters are terrible to begin with. Their dialogue is just awful. But they get to this town, and everyone in town is just staring at them. And I don't mean it's like oh, hey, if you look in the background, this one frame.
No, like, they literally just, like, stop and stare. Like, ooh.
Like, our protagonists are talking, like, here in the foreground, and then, like, the people staring at the cameraman will be getting so close, like, you could probably smell them in the frame. Or there was a moment in which, like, the two people who we're following at the moment are there in the front talking, and then, like, in the foreground, just like, right in the front.
Yeah.
Like, it's every single time they go into town, it is nothing but just faces coming in there, just, like, staring at them.
It's like, they're watching them. Hey!
Get it? Blah. Yeah, I kept trying to figure out, like, why is this movie called Theyre Watching? That has nothing to do with witches. Oh, never mind. Got it. It just, the answer to my question very subtly just excused itself into frame. Like, you cannot pay attention to what anyone is saying in this movie whenever it's just like, hello, what are you guys doing over here?
I think another reason why it's called They're Watching is because it's a film crew, so it's like they're watching everything.
I'll give credit on that. Okay, fine, you did one thing clever, movie. So it's got that going for it. The not subtle at all, like, oh, something might be wrong here. You think? Really? What gave you that idea? Like, the fact that this film crew is sticking around this town at all is insane to me.
Well, I guess they didn't really have anywhere else to stay.
I guess not. But as this movie goes along, they go out there, they find the lady who... it's the lady who bought the house, but her husband has mysteriously disappeared. He's off on a trip. He'll be back in the morning. Don't you guys worry about that. He'll be back in the morning. And they start, like, getting weird camera disturbances out there. They start seeing frogs all over the place. And also the villagers from the town, even though this is 2 miles away from the village, follow them out there without any of them noticing.
They're just, like, standing in the woods staring at them.
There is one shot in here that I actually thought was actually a little bit creepy, in which there's, like, one lady standing there in the woods just watching, just like, just watching our protagonist with the camera, and then, like, somebody steps out from behind a tree.
And then
another person, and another was like, okay, that is kind of funny, because it does look like a cartoon, but that's the closest this movie gets to, like, an actual scare. It's like, oh, that actually was kind of creepy. I'll give you that. Like, that actually was like, oh, shoot. Like, it does make you look at the entire forest like, oh, shoot, how many people could be out here in this forest right now? Now, as far as the actual story of this goes, I'm not going to go into too many spoilers here. We will save that for the spoiler part, in which we will talk about the crazy-ass ending of this thing. We'll save that for after we give our score on this. But I will say, there is a twist. There is a big surprise coming at the end of this movie. You see that coming so far away.
Yeah, it's not really a twist.
This movie, man, I feel like we don't even have to save that for the spoiler part of this. All I will say is that, yes, there were legends in this town. And they talk about how there were legends of a witch in this town. They used to live far out in the woods, and they went out there and they burned her out there in the woods. So anyway, our film crew is out there with this lady who moved into this house in the woods, and they're finding frogs all over the place. So, it's kind of, some things could possibly be not quite right there. Who knows?
Yeah.
She also happens to have books on 100 types of frogs. That's an interesting thing for someone to just own. All right, fine. Maybe she's just really into frogs.
Maybe.
Who could tell?
Also, she found like a cellar in the house, and there was like a mural of a
That
witch
was
burning.
the moment in which, like, if anybody here still hasn't figured this out, go home now. But it's on Netflix. I'm already home. No. Go, like, to a different home. A home that can teach you how to understand how movies work. Because, yeah, there is a moment in which they find a painting that just happened to be in the bottom of this house. And it's like a giant mural telling the story of the witch that got burned out here in this very same house. I honestly, it's so not subtle. And it's so, guess what's going to happen? We are just telling you straight to your face what's going to happen. I really want to know if that's what they were going for. Like, was this actually supposed to be a twist? Like, I get the feeling that the movie makers wanted you, the audience, to think, oh, the people in this town are crazy. There's no witches. They just think that this lady's a witch. They just think that this film crew is full of witches because they're bringing weird technology into their foreign town. Ooh, spooky. And so they're going to turn on them, claiming they're a witch. But of course, there's no such thing as witches. Like, I feel like maybe that's the reason that they thought it would actually be a good idea to actually show you the end of the movie. Like, show you, like, how our protagonist dies at the beginning of the film. Because they're like, oh, you won't expect the real twist of this thing. That there's, spoiler for the one person out there who still hasn't figured out, that the lady who moved in that house was an actual witch. Boom, boom, boom.
It's like, here's the thing, it's like she said she's always been here, so I kind of feel like
it definitely was like a reincarnation.
Yeah,
or
reincarnation
like
of the witch.
Something like that
Something
kind of
like
thing.
that, yeah.
But point is, the villagers were not wrong about the witch lady. She actually is a witch. And I keep looking at this like, was this actually supposed to be a twist? What, like, did you think you were pulling a sly one on us? Did you think that you were actually like, oh, wait until they have the rug pulled out from underneath them? It's like, dude, there was no rug there to begin with.
Like, it feels more like a cartoon for little kids. It's
It
like...
kind of does, doesn't
yeah,
it?
it's like, oh, it's a very predictable twist. Ooh.
Like, yeah, I feel like little children are the only ones who would not understand this. Like, this would be your introduction to twist. Mm-hmm. This is how you would understand it, which makes the end of this film raise several questions, though, about, like, were you really aiming this at children? Were you?
Yeah.
Really? Also, the sex scene in here, also all the foul language, also all these other parts in here. Like, yeah, man, this is like a twist that only babies would understand. But this is not a film for babies, man.
Nope.
Yeah. And again, it's like, if you, like, purposely, like, made it seem shitty, well, then congrats, you pulled that off. But why would you do that? Like, why would you purposely make your movie just seem so, like, bad on purpose? Like,
unless it's also supposed to be, like, parodying, like, found footage movies?
I think you were giving it way too much credit. I think you were trying to be way too nice on this film.
Yeah, but it's like, here's the thing. It's like, they don't even spend a lot of time on the twist. They spend all the time just on the film crew, and I just did not give a fuck about them.
I will actually disagree with you. I think that they spent a lot of time building up to that twist. I think it's just so obvious it's a twist that you're just like, yeah, no shit, man. Like, of course it isn't. Of course this is what's going to happen. I mean, like, that whole scene in which they just stop the movie to go down there and show off the mural, and she's like, yes. It's like she finds this mural in the house that she bought, and it shows like a woman being burned at the stake and all this other crazy stuff. And instead of just being like, yeah, okay, so I want to talk to the guy who sold me this house. I feel like I should have known something about this. And she's like, no, it's really quite wonderful. It's you know, I just want people out there to know about this. It's just...
Like, it's one thing if she was, like, interested in, like, the history of the house, but she was not, like...
No.
Not going
she
down
was
that.
like, she was like, no, this is a very special thing. And, oh, you know what, I'm like, the producer is like, you know what, I know a ghost hunting show. They could come back out here. You get paid for that. Like, I don't need money. I just want people to know about this. And like, yeah, great, wonderful. Like, she also has like another mural on the floor that's just of a frog, and she's got the book on frogs. And like, there's a moment in which one of the characters pops up dead, and he has a frog jump out of his mouth. It's like, does anybody not get what's happening here? Who is the idiot? Smithers, are they saying boo or boo-earns? And then the one person out there, I was saying boo-earns. Like, that's the kind of thing this is. Oh my God. I'm referencing Simpsons clips that don't even make any sense here. I'm so... All right. Sorry. Calming down now. Talking about more positives in this, because I have some other negatives to bring in here. But talking about some more positives in this. As we said, the characters don't grow on you pretty much at all. But I will say, I hated Dimitri in the beginning of this film. Like, he's the real estate agent.
I thought his name was Vladimir.
Vladimir, whatever.
Some sort of Russian name.
No, I think it's... Hold on, wait. The actor's name is Dimitri. The character's name is Vladimir. That's why it's so confusing. I believe that's what it is. Yeah, the actor's name is Dimitri. The character's name is Vladimir. Sorry. But yeah, I hated Vladimir in the beginning because he was so just like super stereotypical.
Yeah, like very sleazy,
in
stereotypical.
Soviet Russia, real estate buys you. But, I mean, yeah, he's super sleazy, too. Like, he's wearing, like, 1980s America, like, discotheque outfits.
Like, with a gold chain around his neck and everything.
There's a moment in which he is talking to the cameraman, there's a moment in which he's talking to the cameraman, and he's like, so you were in Afghanistan. I have people, if you can get me in touch with someone. And he's like, are you trying to get me to smuggle heroin? It's like... We'll talk later. And I was like, yeah, this guy is just involved in everything sleazy. I was like, man, he's such a stereotype and there's nothing to like about him. But there's like a moment where they go out drinking at a bar and it's like, yo, Dimitri, Vladimir, how do you say this in your language? And he tells him, how do you say this? And he's just like there with them. He's actually being really nice to them. He's showing them like the official customs of the town. He's telling them all the legends. Like he's joking and laughing with them. It's like, okay, I'm actually kind of liking him. And then there comes a moment in which he has to kind of have like a hero moment in here. And I actually was kind of like, oh man, I'm seeing him go off to do the hero thing, and I kind of like this guy now.
And then the next time you see him, he's dead.
All right, we're going full spoilers. I was going to save a couple spoilers for Garrett scored. I don't think anybody cares. My bad. Sorry, everyone.
It's funny how at the moment you start liking his character, he's going to end up dead.
That's how horror films work.
Yep.
In all fairness, that is the one thing that I didn't see coming, because I thought this guy's so sleazy. And it's after, like, everyone in town followed them to this place and they trashed their van and they needed someone to walk all the way back to town to get help. Which I say that they're 2 miles from town. They're 2 miles from the road.
Yeah.
They're way further from the town. So, yeah, it was like, okay, so he's going to go out there. And he keeps saying the whole time, it's like, only real estate agent in this land is best real estate agent. And then, like, his last line is, they're saying, it's like, you don't have to go here, man. It's dangerous. And he goes, hey, only volunteer is best volunteer. And yeah, for a brief moment, I was like, don't go, Vladimir. No. But then in the back of my mind, I was like, I have a real feeling it's going to turn out that, like, he set all this up. Like, it's weird that he's the only person in town who isn't part of the crazy cult of, like, what you doing over there? Like, it's weird that he's the only person not doing that. So the reason why it actually did kind of surprise me when he died is that in my mind, I was like, no, this dude is totally, like, lying to them, and he just set all this up to get them in this one location so he could get, like, everyone to swarm them. Like, he's, like, the ringleader of this whole thing. Like, that's where I thought they were going with it, which might have been a more fascinating movie, but that ain't what they did. But no, yeah, he dies, and yeah, I did kind of feel bad about him a little bit, so I'll give him that. Also, even though the characters in here are just caricatures and cartoons, there's long sequences of them just hanging out in town. I know you said that you just didn't care about that. There are moments, and a lot of it has to do with, like, the last time that they're at the bar.
Like, that was literally the only time.
Okay. Beach, stop messing with the green screen.
Like, that was literally the only time that I actually, like, enjoyed it, and it's only because, like, everyone got shit-faced, and that's how everyone was getting along.
It actually was kind of charming seeing them all actually get along. I actually did enjoy that.
Yeah, but
part.
it's like, hey, you want to make friends with the local people who are superstitious in this old-timey town? Just get everybody drunk.
Well, that is, yeah. That's true no matter where you are in the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
And yeah, and it actually was kind of a charming moment. And, like, I actually did kind of like seeing some of their bonding moments I actually kind of enjoyed. I will give the film that. I don't think that you were going all the way there with me, like,
nah.
You let out a sigh as soon as I said that. I was like, yeah, okay. But yeah, I don't like these characters, but there are moments in which their bonding is like, this almost feels like it was improv, because it actually feels like they do actually have some chemistry with each other, which I don't trust the person who wrote this to actually write chemistry. But yeah,
it just felt more like padding to me.
Oh, it totally was. It's a found footage film. There's tons of padding. But yeah, so I can understand you not liking it, but I did kind of like, those were the brief moments which I did kind of like these people. But going back to the other stuff in this film that I didn't like, this is one of the worst shot found footage films I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be saying, it's like, oh man, found footage films always have bad camera work in them. How bad is this? No. This is one of the worst shot found footage films I've ever seen, because it's not shot poorly. This thing, it's one camera, one handheld camera, and a boom mic. There's no lighting guy, and yet, even when the boom mic isn't being used, everybody sounds perfect. They could be like halfway down the block. You will hear them crystal clear. There's no one lighting this, even on this professional set. Even with this like professional film crew that's supposed to be shooting someone inside their house, there's no lighting person there. And yet everyone, no matter where they go, even if they're outside, inside, out in the woods, in this cabin, night, day, no matter what, everyone is so perfectly shot. Like, everyone is perfectly framed. The lighting is so on point.
It's like everyone is in makeup all the time.
Everyone, like, there's a moment where they're going to bed and they're still in makeup, and I was just like, your pillow had better been just, like, smeared in the morning when you woke up. Like, that would actually be a decent joke, but no, they didn't do that. So yeah, like, the lighting is perfect. The way every shot is framed is perfect. Everyone looks like just the most squeaky clean Hollywood actor you could imagine. And the camera itself is so crystal clear. You could see a fly land on a building in the very back. You could see like every single frog they wanted you to look at here. And I was just like, that's not found footage, you idiots. The point of found footage is it's supposed to feel kind of like voyeuristic. It's kind of supposed to feel like you just sort of sunk into this person's life for a day, and you're watching a part of their life that you're not supposed to be seeing.
And like, it's supposed to like have like a non-professional camera. It's like, just grab whatever you have and film it, like, basically.
But I mean, for this non-professional, I'll give you, they know how to frame a shot. I'll give you that, because, you know, yes, it is a professional camera crew in there. But again, like, even when they're not in the place where they are filming the lady, even when they're not in the place filming her house, everyone is perfectly lit. There's moments in which they were just like exploring the town, just walking around exploring the town, just tons of padding, as you said. Every single person, like, just perfectly lit. Every single shot. Everything looks crystal clear, like super HD. I have never seen a camera that can get that well, just picking up, going out, walking around. Like, you need like special, like, you need to do special work on any camera in order to make it look that good. And I can't imagine, like, we're just going to go out there, we're going to sing about finding these candy bars. Yeah, let's all just pal around about these candy bars we found. I'm going to hold it out like this. No one just for that is going to go, hold on, everybody, I just need to adjust every single thing. Hold on, let me get there we go. Now I know the exact exposure to set this to. And yet everything looks like that. Like, they move from day to night to one room to another, from one lighting to another. They never have to white balance shit. Everything is perfectly white balanced. There should be some room that you walk into and suddenly you all look kind of blue. Yeah, something like that. It just drove me nuts. That was like, this is not a found footage film. This is like an actual, like, regular movie, except you didn't want to spend the money on, like, laying down, like, tracks in order to, like, you know, move your dolly around. Like, that is how cheap this motherfucker was. Except, it could have been, I don't want to say cheap, because you do have to spend money on the lighting. You do have to spend, like, time, which does cost you money in filmmaking, on getting your exposure levels right on every single shot. So they did spend time on this. They did spend money on this thing. And yet they spent it in a way that makes it look like a really bad found footage film.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that drove me nuts because you might be thinking, like, well, I don't like the way that found footage films look, so I actually do want them to look like regular movies. No, you don't, because then it doesn't look like a found footage film. It looks like a regular movie, except it's just now poorly shot.
Yeah.
And now you just have tons of parts of this movie that would not be in a regular movie because it's fucking pointless. Mm-hmm. In a found footage film, you will have tons of scenes that do seem kind of pointless, but they're there to kind of add to that tone of voyeurism.
Yeah.
To add to that tone of, I'm watching a found footage. I'm watching something I just picked up, put into my VCR. Oh my goodness, look at this thing I just found. Oh man, who could possibly have recorded this thing? What ends up happening to these people? When you make it look like a regular Hollywood movie, it's just like, wow, this Hollywood movie is really fucking boring and has a lot of pointless scenes in there. Yeah, so this movie, the way they went out of their way to try and make this look as good as possible, and it makes the movie worse for that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do have to take major points off for that. So we spoiled a lot already.
Yeah.
But before we get into the big spoiler at the end, do you want to say anything else about this before we get to the big spoiler at the end?
No, all I know, except that if you don't know what the big spoiler is by now,
well, I'm going to go into details about it.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's the details of the spoilers.
It's not what the spoiler is. The spoiler is that, the lady in the house was a witch. And also that our protagonist dies, but the movie spoils that itself. That's so fucking crazy to me that they decided to do that. That they decided to open their film with that. The spoiler is in the execution at the end. So, I'm going to give this movie a 3.5. I would have given it a 3, but during the last 5 minutes of this movie, I could feel that score rising. I'm almost at a 4 on this.
Yeah, I'm about around a 4 right now.
I'm going up to a 4. Yeah, the more I think about it, I was like, God damn, that ending was fun. That was a fun-ass ending. But it's the difference between a 7 and a 3 to me. And you might be saying, well, that doesn't average out to a 4. It's 3 for a long-ass stretch of this movie, everybody. Mm-hmm. So, okay, at the end of this film, they find out that the witch was a witch. And there is a moment in which when things start to go downhill, after they realize that the witch is a witch, she pulls out this big chamber in her basement, and it's got a floating corpse in there, which is her husband, and it's just covered in blood, and she just drinks it, with a punch stirrer. Yeah. And then the hero guy, Duke McChiselface, goes right up there and punches her in the face and does nothing. Just punches her like her head barely turns. And I laughed hysterically at that moment.
And then she punched back and he went flying across the room.
And you laughed hysterically at that moment. Did. Yeah, I kind of felt like an asshole because I'm not laughing because the guy punched a lady. I'm laughing because he was like, this is totally gonna work. Hero moment. Oh no. Just
yeah, it was very cartoony.
I was preemptively laughing for the massive oh shit that was coming to him. Because she backhands him and he flies across the room and almost indents in the wall. Mm-hmm. He hits it so hard. So after he just gets smashed in the wall, she grabs his hand and lightning is shooting out of him while our protagonist, who just that night had sex with him because the two of them just finally admitted how much they loved him after he revealed his dark secret past. But before they went out on this shoot, you saw him put this camera on his chest, under his shirt.
Yeah.
Not explain why on earth he would want to put a camera, there's no reason for that.
No.
Another reason why this movie is just awful is because this movie, they stop before they even head out to this house to see him. There was no shirt on, which, hey, nothing wrong with that. Do whatever you want to do with that. But he puts on this little camera on his chest, puts it over his shirt, and then we never see any single shots from that angle at all. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing that really gets me. Not only do we not see any shots from that camera at all for the rest of this entire film, there is even, as I said, right before all this crazy shit happened, right before they found out she was a witch, right before she started attacking them back, he had sex with her. There is a scene which they break down, he reveals his tragic past, they undress, start making love. did he have the camera on his chest while they were making love?
I don't know.
After they made love, did he go, oh yeah, let me make sure to put this camera back around my chest and
Yeah,
turn that
because
on.
when he was getting electrocuted...
That is the only time in this goddamn film when suddenly it switches to his point of view from the chest camera.
Yeah, and it's his girlfriend just, with the camera, just...
No! And then that is it. That's it. And then he's just atomized, and I kind of, in all honesty, I was kind of hoping that she was just going to turn him into a frog, because it feels like, man, you've been building frogs this entire time.
She did turn another person into frogs.
Hold on, yeah, exactly. That's the reason I'm not really that mad at her not turning him into a frog and just atomizing him. Because after that, they go running out into the woods, and you just see crazy, you see lightning bolts flying everywhere, because then all the villagers come running in to kill the witch, and you just see lightning and magic and spells flying everywhere. And there was a moment in which the guy holding the camera, the jokey guy, he falls down and he's looking up at this one person who's about to attack him. That person gets zapped, and that person turns into not a frog, dozens of frogs. Just their entire body just puzzle pieces of frogs is what he turned into and falls off. Then another lady comes up to attack him, and then all those frogs attack the lady. And I was looking at this oh my God. This thing went ape at the end of this movie. Because it just keeps going from there. Because like I said, the protagonist lady, she gets killed instantly. So it's just the jokey guy left with the camera. That's all that's left in this. And it's just, from then on, him just running through, hordes of, townspeople just getting zapped and blown up. And then every now and then you turn around and you see, the witch just floating there, just magic octopus hands flying out of her. And
it's and the townsfolk even, brought a giant stake to burn her. And then she just grabs it, uses her magic grab it, and just, break it in half. And it's the CGI is shit. But it's hilarious.
Yeah. The ending of this movie is fun as fuck. The ending of this movie is so goddamn fun. And part of it is because it's so bad. But yeah, it's just this movie that's horribly shot with all these just bad characters, bad writing, just an awful film through and through. At the end of this movie, just cracked its knuckles and was let me show you what I can do. Just now I'm warmed up. All right, here we go.
And it's I remember you saying, Devil's Pass had the biggest twist ending. I think this one takes the cake.
Biggest left turn twist in terms of, where the plot went, Devil's Pass still wins. Biggest, just, oh my God, biggest twist in terms of execution, this one. Absolutely this one. Because Devil's Pass, I was looking at it, I was man, fuck you with this ending. With this one, I was oh, this is what I had to sit through an hour of bullshit for? Okay, I'm actually kind of invested now.
It's this is a fun twist. That was a dumb twist.
Also, Devil's Pass was kind of interesting until then. Up until this, it was oh my God, we know she's a witch. Oh, come on. Just do the thing already.
Just do it already. Yes!
And then they did it already, and I was oh, you know what? That was actually kind of, I didn't think that the actual reveal itself was actually going to be a payoff. I didn't think that all that massive buildup would actually be worth it, but it still isn't. But, I'm actually still happy for this. It'd be just getting a really shitty appetizer, you just get a salad and all the rest is just molting, and the tomatoes are way too spongy in there, and then you get a steak and it's just burnt to shit, you can't even chop through that thing. But then you
get the dessert.
And then they just bring out a chocolate fountain at the end of it. It's oh shit, I wanna dunk my shitty steak in this chocolate fountain, it looks so good. Yeah, that's kind of what the end of this movie is. And like I said, it's on Netflix. Watch the last 10 to 15 minutes before this. So that way you still have a little bit of a build up. So that way it makes the payoff still worth it. Because if you just get the payoff, that's just empty calories right there. Mm-hmm. All right, you can't just go straight into that. You need to sit through a little bit of the, oh my God, what the fuck is the point of any of this? To make it actually all worth it?
Yeah, but the thing is, there's too much of the build up.
Yeah.
There's too much build up. They could have definitely cut some of that shit out.
Yeah, but the ending of this film, I'm just still amazed by it. And again, it's not like it looks amazing. It's not like this looks like it suddenly got $100 million budget out of nowhere.
Nope.
It's still cheap as fuck. It's still like the kind of stuff I could do in Adobe Premiere. If you've ever watched like the Dark Souls review I did, which I had to figure out a way to get like a sword to stick through my chest and blood to splatter out, it's about that level of stuff. But man, they went bananas. BANANAS at the end of this thing. There was a moment in which the cameraman falls, and then the camera, which is splattered in blood, just gets lifted up and is risen back over to the witch. And the witch is just in terrible witch makeup now all of a sudden, and she just causes the blood to magically disappear on here. And then she turns the camera around, and you see all these villagers are about to beat the crap out of the funny guy, and then the camera just gets shoved through their chest. Just one after another, just hunting them down. Man! Yeah, I gotta give him credit on this one. It was an amazing dessert to a shitty meal, is what the ending of this is.
Although, would you consider it found footage if she deliberately left the camera on so everyone can see?
At the end of this movie, she gives the camera back to the funny guy and says, I'm not going to kill you. You're my director. And unless you don't want to be my director, good. Because someone has to tell my story. And that's what it was. It was like, yeah, you have to go and put it out there. So it's like, okay, technically, like, if you mean found footage in the literalist terms of them all, no, it's not. But it is found footage in that it's like, okay, it's meant to be like you just picked up this camera and saw the footage in there. As well as the footage coming from from the camera on that guy's chest, which it just hit me. How did they find that footage? Every bit of him was atomized. Like, can she just summon a part of him back anytime that she wants?
Maybe she's a witch.
I guess. Did she, like, call him up as he was, like, editing this footage together? Like, okay, gotta get this together or else the witch is going to kill me. And then she's hey, just letting you know, I found out he was wearing a camera, so, you know, I brought it back into existence. Do you have a P.O. box I can send that to? Or do you have a Dropbox? I can just upload this to the cloud if that works for you.
No, the witch is the reason why everyone looks so nice and there's good lighting. She fucked with the tape.
That's it. Oh my god, this is the second movie that we've seen this month about witch fucking with the tape. Oh my god. Yeah, this movie is horrible. It is a bad film, but at the end of it, it's fun bad. This is like all of Venom crammed into 5 minutes. Man, it is a hilariously good time at the end of this film. So yeah, I'm still giving it a 4. This is not worth recommending to watch to people, but the ending of it is worth recommending to watch to people. But again, don't just go into it. You'll be like, this is what you think is so funny. You gotta sit through some bad in there. You gotta like at least watch like the last like 15, 20 minutes of this thing.
Yeah, you gotta like sit through the bad shit in order to appreciate the good shit.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what the end of this is. But yeah, so that was it. That was our take on Theyre Watching. Again, it's on Netflix, so you can just go watch it. Just go. But man, if you are in the mood for some schlock, this is a great schlock at the end of this film. But thank you very much for tuning in. We only got one more found footage movie to talk about, so we'll be doing that tomorrow. But normally, I save whatever the next week's theme is for the last episode of the previous week's theme. But I'm going to give you guys a little time on this one, because the final week of post-SHRIEK reactions is viewer request. So you guys can leave in the comments down below of this video or on Twitter at twitter.com/ProfessorThor. You can contact me there and let me know, what movie do you want me to do a post-SHRIEK reaction on in our final week? There you go, down below or on Twitter at twitter.com/ProfessorThor. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and happy Halloween.
Bye.